Hello students, my name is Assistant Professor Vaishali Sonone. Presently I am working in MVP's SVKT College, Deolali camp. Today we are going to discuss on the topic Golden Era of Microbiology. This particular lecture is meant for FYBSc microbiology student. Let's start with the recap of our previous lecture. So in our previous lecture, we have discussed about introduction to microbiology. Under that, we have also discussed about the common definitions which are associated with microbiology. Like we have gone through definitions of microbiology, we have gone through definitions and the concept of microscope and microorganism. Along with that, we have also discussed about the discovery of microscope, how the microscope was discovered. Let's see the today's agenda. In today's lecture, we will be discussing about the golden era of microbiology. And under that, we are going to study the contribution of two scientists. Firstly, we are going to see the contribution of Sir Louis Pasteur. And secondly, we are going to see the contribution of Robert Koch. The learning objectives for today's lecture is to study the contribution of two renowned scientists in the field of microbiology. The first one is Sir Louis Pasteur, and under the contribution of Louis Pasteur, we are going to study three major contributions that are made by Louis Pasteur in the field of microbiology. First one is the fermentation, pasteurization, and a principle of vaccination which was put forward by Louis Pasteur. Secondly, we are going to discuss on the contributions of Robert Koch. He has contributed in the germ theory of diseases, and under that Koch's postulate we are going to discuss. Now let's begin our lecture with the golden era of microbiology. Now what do you understand by the golden era of microbiology? Development of microbiology began in the 19th century. The time duration from 1857 to 1954 is termed as a golden era of microbiology. Now why it is termed as golden era of microbiology? Because large number of discoveries, major fundamental discoveries happened in this particular era, and during this particular era there was a massive development of microbiology as a branch of science. Now let's see the contribution of Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur, first we'll discuss the introduction of Sir Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was born on 27 December 1822. He was a French chemist and a microbiologist. So basically Louis Pasteur was a chemist, but when he developed his keen interest in the microbiology, he has made his many of the discoveries in the field of microbiology, and he has contributed a lot in the field of microbiology. He was a renowned scientist, and he is well known for his major discoveries like the principle of vaccination, fermentation, pasteurization. Along with that, he has also contributed in the development of different vaccines, like rabies vaccine is there, cholera vaccine is there. He is also regarded as the founder of modern bacteriology. He has been honored as a father of microbiology along with Sir Anton van Leeuwenhoek, who discovered the microscope, and he is also honored as a father of bacteriology along with Robert Koch. So totally he is renowned as father of bacteriology and father of microbiology along with Anton van Leeuwenhoek and Robert Koch. So he was known for his contribution in the field of vaccination, in the field of microbiology for vaccination. So he has developed different types of vaccines. Just now I have told you, like he has contributed in development of rabies vaccine. Along with that, he has contributed in cholera vaccine, anthrax vaccine, and he has also contributed in the field of fermentation and pasteurization. So let's begin with the fermentation. Now, Louis Pasteur has put forward a germ theory of fermentation. Now, before the discovery of microscope, before the discovery of microorganism, it was thought that all the processes which occurs in a nature, either it is a process of fermentation or it is a process of putrefaction, it is only because of the chemical reactions that generally occurs. And only after the discovery of microscope, only after the discovery of microorganism, it was further found that key microorganism do play role in the biological process. And even being a chemist, Louis Pasteur has stated a germ theory of fermentation. It states that the fermentation is caused because of the microorganism. So microorganisms are basically responsible for the process of fermentation. Now, there are two common phenomena which generally occur in a nature, which was initially thought of occur because of chemical reaction. One was your fermentation and another one is your putrefaction. So fermentation is the process in which your sugar is converted into alcohol. It is basically an anaerobic process, whereas when we talk about putrefaction, putrefaction is a protein degradation process which result in foul smelling products such as amino acids, peptides, polypeptides. So if you keep a piece of meat for longer period of time, it is going to result in foul smelling, and that foul smelling is only contributed is a contribution of microbial degradation of protein into amino acids, peptides and polypeptides. Now, Pasteur worked on various fermentations like lactic acid fermentation, alcoholic fermentation, butyric acid fermentation, and during his course of time, he has worked on different fermentations. Now, when we talk about fermentation, generally there are some guidelines, some outlines which was put forward by Louis Pasteur for fermentation. His outcome of his investigation is that each type of fermentation is a result of microbial activity. Means that for each and every type of fermentation, microorganisms are involved and microorganisms are responsible for any type of fermentation. Secondly, during the fermentation, microorganism produces a specific type of product from a substrate like sugar. So a specific substrate is required for formation of specific product. Like suppose if we are carrying out an alcohol fermentation, so in that case, sugar is a substrate and alcohol is the end product. And lastly, for fermentation, microorganism requires a specific environment. So a specific environment is required for the microorganism to carry out a fermentation. The specific environment, it may include the temperature, it may include the pH, it may include the sugar concentration and all other aspects of that. Now, when the Louis Pasteur was studying butyric acid fermentation, during that course of time, he observed that there is some other organisms which are not able to survive under aerobic conditions. So he found out there are some microorganism or there are some bacteria which doesn't survive under aerobic set of conditions, and he named them as anaerobes. So there are two terminologies which was given by Louis Pasteur to describe the requirement of oxygen for the growth and development and to carry out a fermentation as aerobes and anaerobes. Now aerobes, aerobic group of bacteria are the bacteria which requires oxygen for their growth and development. Along with that, they require oxygen for their survival. But when we talk about anaerobes, anaerobes are the organisms which are killed in presence of oxygen. So they does not require oxygen for their growth and development and to carry out the fermentation. So broadly you can classify fermentation as aerobic fermentations and anaerobic ones. So aerobic one generally employs your oxygen requiring bacteria, and anaerobic fermentation includes or involves anaerobic group of bacteria. This is how the Louis Pasteur has contributed in development of your fermentation. Next, he has also contributed in the field of pasteurization or in developing the technique that is known as pasteurization. Now, in 1856 to 57, Pasteur was working on ethanol fermentation. And during that period of time, there was a French wine industry which was handled by a friend of Louis Pasteur, and that particular industry has encountered a problem. Now what was that problem? The problem was that there was a development of sour taste in the wine. So the normal taste, alcoholic taste of wine has been replaced by a sour taste. Now the people which were working in the industry, they were not able to find out what is the problem. So since Pasteur was working in the fermentation, he called Louis Pasteur to solve this particular problem. Now when the Pasteur observed this particular the wine, sour taste wine, he found out that there are two different types of bacteria, two different types of microbes that are present in that particular wine. So one was a oval one, that was the yeast. So basically for alcohol fermentation or for wine fermentation, Saccharomyces cerevisiae or yeast is used for that particular fermentation. But along with that, a small rods were also there. So he observed that there are some other organisms which are also present in that particular fermentation or in that particular wine. So he studied that organism and he found that these are the organisms which are actually responsible for the sour taste of wine. So they are nothing but they are the contaminating bacteria. And now it is known that the organism which generally brings about spoilage of your wine is lactic acid bacteria. So the organism which was creating a problem or which was giving a sour taste to the wine was your lactic acid bacteria. Now this problem was overcome. So Pasteur designed a technique by which this problem can be overcome. So this problem, to overcome this problem, he designed a process of gentle heating, and this gentle heating of grape juice, right? The grape juice which is generally used for the process of fermentation, it was subjected to a heating, gentle heating at a 60 degree centigrade for a period of 30 minutes. And this particular gentle heating results in killing of lactic acid bacteria. So the bacteria which was creating a problem in that particular wine was removed or were killed by a process of gentle heating. Now what Pasteur observed? He has observed that the gentle heating process has greatly improved the quality of wine. So even after fermentation, this gentle heating was given prior to fermentation. So your grape juice was taken, it was subjected to gentle heating. So whatever undesirable organism or the contaminants which were there in the grape juice, they were killed by gentle heating, and that was followed up by inoculation of pure culture of your yeast. And then that yeast carried out the fermentation and result in formation of good quality of wine. And after that, it was also subjected to a gentle heating, and this gentle heating process has greatly improved the quality of wine. And after this designing this particular process of gentle heating, that is your partial sterilization process by Louis Pasteur, he became a national hero. And this particular process of heating which kills undesirable microorganism is termed as your pasteurization, in due honor to the person who discovered, who first put forward this particular phenomenon. And this process of your pasteurization is nowadays is used for pasteurization of milk and milk products. Now for milk pasteurization, a temperature of 63 degrees centigrade for a period of 30 minutes is used, and if a temperature is increased to 71.7 degrees centigrade, so in that case the time duration is less, it is near about 15 to 20 seconds. So as you increase the temperature, your time is going to get decreased. If you increase the time, your temperature is going to decrease. Now this whole process of pasteurization is also called as partial sterilization process. Now why it is called as partial sterilization process? It is called as partial sterilization process because this partial heating at a temperature of 60 degrees centigrade, it need not necessarily kill each and every microorganism present in that particular sample or present in that particular milk sample. So only those organisms which are sensitive to that particular temperature, only those bacteria are killed, and therefore this particular process is called as your partial sterilization process. Now the next major contribution of Louis Pasteur is he put forward the principle of vaccination. Now when we talk about vaccination, in this process of vaccination was put forward by a scientist known as Edward Jenner in 1798. But what is actually the principle of vaccination, how it works, or how different types of vaccines can be prepared, this was put forward, or the principle of vaccination was put forward by, or it was explained by Louis Pasteur. So the next experiment, this experiment which proved the principle of vaccination was performed by Sir Louis Pasteur, and that particular experiment is called as your chicken cholera experiment. Now what is this actually chicken cholera experiment? When the Pasteur was working with cholera causing bacteria. So in that course of time, he tried to infect the chicken by using the same bacteria. So he isolated that organism from the chicken. So when he isolated that organism, he tried to prove that this particular organism is responsible for cholera in chicken. So actually in that period, in that experiment, he was not actually tried to prove the principle of vaccination, but what actually he was doing, that he was actually finding out the causative agent of cholera. So for that he isolated an organism from the chicken which was infected by the cholera. So for that what he did, he isolated the organism and he demonstrated a public demonstration. He arranged a public demonstration. Now in public demonstration, what he was supposed to do is, he was supposed to inject that causative agent of cholera which he has isolated into a healthy chicken, and he want to show that this particular organism results in cholera in the chicken, and as a result of that chicken is going to get die. But when he performed this experiment publicly, he injected that the organism which he isolated into the healthy chicken. Now actually what should happen, the chicken should develop a cholera and the chicken should die. But the opposite of this happened. The chicken remained healthy and they did not suffer from that particular infection. So the Louis Pasteur was very much confused that since even this, he has isolated the organism and before public demonstration he has performed this this experiment in his lab. So in his lab he has injected the organism which he has isolated from the chicken which was infected with cholera. At that time the healthy chicken developed the cholera and that particular chicken died. But when he demonstrated it publicly, at that time the chicken remained healthy. So he tried to find out the answer for this particular question. So what he found out that for public demonstration, the culture which he had used, that particular culture was a old culture. That culture was old culture. And when he has performed his experiment in a laboratory, that culture was the fresh culture. So what he found that, or what he concluded, he has concluded that it is because of the old culture that his experiment didn't work. Okay, now what he did, he again arranged a second public demonstration for the same experiment. Now for second demonstration he used a fresh culture. But the chickens which he used for his experiment, he used two group of chicken. One group of chicken was inoculated with the organism in his previous experiment, the first experiment where the chicken remained healthy. So 50% of the chickens which was used in first experiment, they were again used for the second experiment, and another 50% was the one which was not previously inoculated with the organism. So again he inoculated both these group of chickens with the fresh culture. Now since he was using a fresh culture, what should happen? All chicken must die. But what was the result? The result which he obtained is that the chicken which was previously inoculated in the first experiment, they remained healthy and they didn't die, nor they suffered with the cholera. But the chickens which were not inoculated in the previous experiment developed the disease and they died. So, from his experiment, from his second experiment, what he concluded? He concluded that the old culture which he used in the first experiment, since it was an old culture, it has developed something which has made this organism virulent, right? So because of prolonged incubation, the pathogenic virulent organism is converted into non-virulent, and when this non-virulent organism is inoculated into a healthy chicken, the chicken has acquired some factor which has protected this particular chicken from the fresh culture organism. So because of this, the chicken didn't develop the infection. So this was the experiment which proved that, or which put forward the principle of vaccination. So what is the principle of vaccination? The principle is that as far as this experiment is concerned, or as far as Louis Pasteur's finding is concerned, that if you make the culture old, or if you attenuate the organism, attenuation is to growing the organism under the condition in which the virulent strain is converted into a virulent strain, and if that a virulent strain is going to, if you are going to use that a virulent strain for a process of vaccination, even if the strain is alive, that strain is not going to cause the infection, but that strain is going to impart a immunity against that particular infection. So this was the experiment and the findings of vaccination which was put forward by Louis Pasteur. So let's see what are the other development. Now once when the principle of vaccination was known, then Louis Pasteur tried to find out the solutions for different infections. Like after developing a chicken cholera experiment, he tried to work on the rabies. So for development of rabies vaccine, what he did, he inoculated a saliva of rabid dog, and the rabid dog's brain is removed when the dog was died, and he dried that particular brain. This dried brain powder was mixed with the liquid, and this particular preparation was used for protection, to providing protection to the dogs against the rabies. Now this preparation was first tested by now the vaccine which he has prepared, he was using it for animals, for the dogs and wolves and all that. But first time it was used on a boy named as Joseph Mister. Now Pasteur inoculated the same preparation to the boy, and the boy remained healthy. This boy was bitten by a rabid dog, and again when he inoculated the same vaccine, the boy remained healthy and that boy didn't die. And therefore further this vaccine was again used for wolves and other category of organism to provide protection against diseases. So these are the different contributions of Sir Louis Pasteur in the field of microbiology. Along with that, he has contributed a lot in the development of microbiology. These are the some key findings of Louis Pasteur which we have seen in this particular lecture. So we have seen fermentation, pasteurization, and a principle of vaccination. Now the next scientist which we are going to discuss is Robert Koch. Sir Robert Koch was born on 11th December 1843. He was a German physician, and along with that he was a microbiologist. He is basically known for bacterial culture method. So he has devised a method by which bacteria can be cultured or how they can be grow in a laboratory. Along with that, he is known for germ theory of diseases. He is well known for Koch's postulates, which proves the germ theory of diseases. He is again known for discovery of anthrax bacilli, discovery of tubercle bacilli as a pathogenic microorganism. Now let's see what is germ theory of disease. Germ theory of disease, it states that microorganisms or microbes are responsible for production of disease. And it was the first time Robert Koch discovered the role of bacteria as a causative agent. Now Robert Koch was basically working with anthrax bacilli, and when he was working with anthrax bacilli, he isolated that bacilli and he again re-inoculated that bacilli into healthy organism, and what he found that the healthy organism developed the disease, and he isolated that organism. So on the basis of this, his findings, or on the basis of his experiment, he put forward a Koch's postulate which each and every microorganism should fulfill. Right. Now what are Koch's postulates? There are 4 postulates which are given by Robert Koch for a particular type of disease, and majority of bacterial pathogen, they generally follow these postulates. Now what are Koch's postulates? Koch's postulates, these are the 4 criteria designed to establish a causal relationship between causative microbe and a disease. So these 4 postulates helps in understanding the relationship between a disease and a causative agents. So what are these 4 postulates? So the very first postulate is that the microorganism must be found in abundance in all the organisms which are suffering from a disease, but that organism should not be present in the healthy one. So whatever organism which causes a disease, it should be present in plenty amount in the organism who is suffering, but it should not be present in a healthy one. Second postulate is that you can isolate, the microorganism must be isolated from the susceptible host or from the diseased organism and can be grown in a pure culture. This is your second postulate. Third postulate is that the cultured microorganism should cause the same disease when it is inoculated into a healthy organism. This is the third postulate, and the fourth postulate is the microorganism must be re-isolated from the inoculated diseased experimental host and identified as the identical organism which was isolated initially. So let's see with a diagrammatic representation of Koch's postulates. So the first postulate of Koch, Robert Koch, is the susceptible causative agent. It should present in the healthy it should remain absent in healthy organism and should be present in the diseased organism. Like suppose if we consider a disease like Salmonella typhi. Okay. Now if a person is suffering from Salmonella typhi, so the diseased person should contain ample amount of Salmonella typhi bacilli in his circulatory system or in his body, right. This is the first postulate. The second postulate is that you can isolate this organism. So from diseased person, from diseased organism, the causative factor or causative organism can be isolated and can be grown in a pure culture. So from his body you can isolate it and you can grow it in a pure culture. Now if this pure culture which was obtained, if it is inoculated into, again if it is inoculated into another healthy host, okay, if it is inoculated into another healthy host, then the same type of disease should be developed. This is the third postulate, means the symptoms which was shown by the first host, right, first diseased organism, same type of symptoms should be shown when pure culture of the isolated organism is inoculated into the another healthy organism. And again, where this from this second host, when the culture must cause the same disease, and when from this organism you should be able to isolate the same organism. Again, it should be re-isolated. The same causative agent must then be re-isolated from the inoculated diseased organism, right. So, in this case, since he worked on anthrax, so he first inoculated the, he has taken a organism infected with anthrax, he isolated the anthrax bacilli, he has grown that bacilli on culture media in laboratory. So, the pure culture which he obtained, that pure culture is again inoculated into a susceptible host, same host from where the disease causing organism has been isolated. Like suppose if the first host is your cow, so again second time for inoculation of pure culture, the cow, again a different healthy cow is used, and then that cow should develop a same type of symptoms, and from this second host the organism can be again isolated. So, these are the 4 postulates which was given by a Robert Koch. Now, all these postulates which were given by Robert Koch, or basically all the disease causing organism follows these postulates, but there are some flaws, or there are some organism which doesn't follows these postulates. So, when the Robert Koch has put forward these postulates, the viruses were not known, the discovery of viruses was not there, and viruses, we all know that we can't cultivate viruses in a laboratory, and therefore viruses doesn't fulfills the Koch's postulate. Viruses do causes infections in a human being or in any different types of living organism, but we can't isolate the virus on in a laboratory on a culture media in the form of, in pure form, right. So, for that because of that, these viruses doesn't follows your Koch's postulates. Another thing is that one microbe can cause several diseases. One microbe can cause several diseases. Now, since Koch's postulate states that it is only the single organism which causes a specific type of disease, and another thing is that disease caused by several pathogens, several different pathogens can show you the similar type of symptoms. Like suppose when we talk about, like suppose consider like gastrointestinal tract infection. Now, when we talk about gastrointestinal tract infection, the symptoms which are associated with gastrointestinal tract infection is your diarrhea is there, vomiting is there, abdominal cramps are there. These are the basic symptoms which are associated with any type of gastrointestinal tract infection. And when we talk about gastrointestinal tract infection, it is caused by number of different bacteria, like it is caused by E. coli, it can be your salmonella, it can be your shigella, where your gastrointestinal system is hampered. And the symptoms are more or less similar, like the person suffers from temperature, the person suffers from diarrhea, vomiting. So, in this particular case, even this thing plays an important role, this point plays an important role as far as your Koch's postulates is concerned. So, basically those organisms which you can't cultivate on in a laboratory media, doesn't follows the Koch's postulates. So, let's have a look of what we have discussed today. So, in today's lecture, we have discussed about the contribution of 2 major scientists, Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch. Under Louis Pasteur, we have seen fermentation, contribution of Louis Pasteur in development of fermentation, in development of aerobes and in anaerobes, in discovery of aerobes and anaerobic group of organisms. We have seen the process of pasteurization. We have seen how this process of pasteurization was initially given to it was designed for wine, but later on this particular process is used for milk and milk product, and even now this particular process is used. And again we have seen a vaccination, how the principle of vaccination was put forward by Louis Pasteur. Now when this phenomenon of vaccination or principle of vaccination was known, after that, as I told you, that large number of vaccines were designed by Louis Pasteur, and in return to that he has received an ample amount of money, and that was from where the institute of Pasteur Institute in Paris was established. Then we have seen the contribution of Robert Koch, and that we have seen germ theory of diseases, that for each and every type of disease organism, microorganism is associated. And secondly, we have seen the Koch's postulate. Along with that, we have also seen the Koch's postulate. We have also seen that Koch's postulate is not followed by each and every type of organism. Now there is a small assignment for all of you. You are supposed to diagrammatically represent the chicken cholera experiment which was performed by Sir Louis Pasteur. And secondly, what is germ theory of disease? What do you understand by the germ theory of disease? And along with that, you are supposed to find out the various pathogenic microorganisms, disease causing organisms which is present in our nature. Then let's have a recap what we are going to see in our next lecture. So in our next lecture, we are going to discuss the discovery of endospore. The discovery of endospore was done by Ferdinand Coe. So how endospores was discovered, that we are going to see in our next lecture. Along with that, we are also going to see the discovery of viruses. So how the viruses was discovered. Your tobacco mosaic virus, you all must be aware that it was the first virus which was discovered, how that discovery has occurred. And lastly, we are going to see the reverse postulates. So these reverse postulate was put forward by River. These postulates are more or less similar to that of your Koch's postulate, but these reverse postulate is basically meant for viruses. So we'll see all these things in our next lecture. So thank you.